Hey, Faith, Pastor Jeremy, and as part of our ongoing kind of celebration of our 75th anniversary today, we've been bringing you some videos, and you may have already seen some of the videos that Pastor Bill and I shot diving into the history and the past of Faith. Today, we have a video for you that dives into the story of this place, 345 Fairview Avenue, and how we wound up here and that whole story. So in a second, you're going to see an interview between myself and Pastor Bill, who was pastor during that time, and Al House, who was board chair through the process of building this place that we now call home. Enjoy. Here with us today, Al House, board chair that time, also for a long time afterwards, and then our former senior pastor, Pastor Bill Coleman. Thanks for being here, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So we've been here on Fairview now for 20 years-ish. It was 2005 when we moved in. But take me back to our previous facility over on Chestnut Ave. When did conversations first begin about leaving Chestnut, and what brought those conversations about?
I think the conversations probably began before I was pastor with Pastor Brubaker, because the building had expanded during his time, but it became landlocked, right? And so there was discussions when I arrived here about how to expand the property. Can we expand the property? Because first of all, we ended up having a full building. Didn't have enough parking, enough children's ministry, enough auditorium space. So we went to 2 services, just like we're doing now. Again, 20 years, or no, much more than 20 years from now. And during those years, we did a lot of research on what we could do to expand that facility. And the bottom line was we could never work it out with the city or with Kettle Creek Conservation Authority because we were on a ravine, right? Because we were landlocked. And so the church made a decision, to take a huge step of faith, which was sell the building and to buy a piece of property that would be big enough so we wouldn't run into this problem again, and build a brand new church. And so from that decision until the Sunday we moved in here, what do you think, 10 years?
At least 10 years. Yeah.
And it wasn't all downhill. Well, I guess it depends on what downhill means.
Downhill. It was uphill and downhill.
Yeah.
Lots of challenges.
Right. So Al, do you remember at all, when you guys first, obviously it would have been a long period of time, conversation amongst the leadership and the board, when you first brought the news to the congregation or brought the idea to the congregation? What was the early reception? Or
I mean, I think we'd always identified that we struggled for space. I first came to Faith Church back in 1972. And at that time, so I was 13 years old, our Sunday school class, the only place they could find us was under a stairwell at the front of the church. And that's where we had our class. Yeah. So we always had struggles with space.
That was on Churchill Crescent, right?
No, this was over at Chestnut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chestnut would have been pretty
And then we had a Christian school that was growing. We didn't have education space. So we always struggled. So I think it became much easier for the congregation when we finally decided, okay, we need to do something. Mm-hmm. And as Bill went over, that we really couldn't do anything at that location. The motion that came forward to proceed, very minimal. It was overwhelming, the response. Let's go forward and see what God has for us.
Yeah. And of course, it's always, some people that are concerned, can we afford this? Is there some other alternative and all that? And so we went through all of that kind of conversation. But when it was voted on, I don't remember what it was, but it was super high. Like maybe nearly everybody thought, let's go for it. Yeah. Mm.
And the building on Chestnut, like what you guys were in at that point, was already kind of the second version of that building. It had been built and then expanded, and then I think even renovated within that.
So it was the second version. So we had actually done a renovation, and we had flipped the auditorium from back to front.
Right. Bill showed me. I was in there for the first time when Bill and I were doing the videos, and yeah, he showed me how it's like was reversed and.
Yeah, so we had done all we could at that point. And so it was time to see what God had in store and find a location.
So it's time to look. You officially go out searching. Like this property wasn't the first one on your radar. Tell me about that process. Like where else did you look? What were maybe some of the early possibilities, and maybe if you remember, why didn't they work out, or what led us here?
So we engaged a realtor, Dennis Broom, and Dennis Broom and his wife Christine, to go out and search. And it was probably quite a while before anything happened. And there were things that we looked at. One was more on the north end of the city, and we looked at that, and we prayed about, was God leading us to be at the north end of the city, so we'd be closer to London. And for a variety of reasons, that property just didn't seem to.
And that was up like the north end of Burwell, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of obstacles to that as well. And it just never seemed to sit well. So that kind of died for a while. And then Dennis came back to us with an opportunity for potentially 15 acres in the south end. And from the start, I actually had a very good feel about that. And I don't know, Bill, do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, we also looked at an empty factory.
Oh yeah.
You remember that factory up on Talbot Street? Big empty factory. I forget what it is. This thing was huge.
Like whereabouts on Talbot? Where would that have been?
Talbot and First, maybe.
Okay, right in there. Okay.
Yeah, so we looked at that, and it was so massive, and it would take so much renovation. Plus, it didn't really have parking suitable for a church. But yeah, when we heard about this property down here, it was a soybean field
Right.
in the middle of farmland. So I don't know, I thought, well, we'll just get permission to build a church. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. But then we discovered that there was this huge vision that our city had, the developers as well as some of the city council people and so forth. It's called the South Block Development.
Okay.
So this was everything we see today. That this area here was going to be the educational, recreational area of the South Block Development. So we have like the Doug Terry Ball Diamonds across the street. We have St. Joe's High School. We got Fanshawe College, and this property was sitting here, 15, almost 16 acres. None of the houses you see, none of this new development. So it was just all open.
Yeah. Like talk to me about that. It's like what was existing in around this area of the city when you guys first started looking at the property? Like St. Joe's wasn't there just yet?
No. Lake Margaret was still Axford's gravel pit.
It was still the pit. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just shortly before, towards the end of that 10 years period, when the building in Lake Margaret started.
Oh, okay.
So they had a few houses, and it was all farmland. It was just open farmland. So the city wanted to not just build this, build that, have this, that. They wanted it all to be coordinated. And so they had this huge project with engineers and archaeologists and all kinds of people. And we were part of that. So we got to be an inside part of developing of this 16 acres where they literally know where every drop of water goes. I'm serious. One drop of water hits our parking lot, they know where it goes. And so everything's organized and planned like this. So we ended up, and again, this was not so much our planning. We just thought this is what God wants us to do. We ended up in this unbelievable location that over the last 20 years is just filled out with people. Right. New housing, apartments, and, schools and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And that continues on.
Yeah, and there's more growth coming. And Al, so you guys had to sit in a lot of meetings with city and developers and all these things. Like,
So as Bill mentioned about the whole South Block development, we met several afternoons, city planning department and environment, all the developers, and Bill and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I often joked with Dennis Broom, who kind of coordinated them, that the developers, they were pretty competitive with each other. The city, of course, they had their agenda. I think they had Bill there because everybody was more respectful of each other with Pastor Bill there.
Yeah, no fist fights broke
That's
out.
No fist fights broke out, and through it, it came together, the whole South End development. And I mean, when you look at things on a map, Bay St. Thomas is right in the center of it.
And they blessed us, by they named that street north of us Faith Boulevard.
Right, yeah.
That's named after our church. That wasn't us doing that. That was the developer saying, we really want to bless these people. It's naming a street after them. It's amazing.
And it's neat, if you drive down Faith Boulevard, just north of the church here, it comes right towards the pathway that comes across our parking lot.
Yeah.
So if you're driving down that street, like the church is kind of in profile right at the end of it. Yeah.
Right. And again, that wasn't us doing that. That was them saying, we want to bless these people.
Oh, I didn't know that part. I figured like our name was connected to that, but that's cool. And like it's interesting to know that the whole like development was all coordinated. I mean, you can see that in how the pathways all like weave through the entire south end. Like it's clear that the entire development was laid out with intent and design. And like I mean, at some point, I'm sure south of us is going to get built up. We've heard like obviously the subdivision over just south of Lake Margaret is being built out, and Central Elgin is talking about building out property out around the old psych hospital lands, and so like there's more and more growth coming to our city, and with the battery plant, all these things, like there could be tens of thousands more people here over the next 20, 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, like God blessed us and put us right smack in the middle of that growth. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and it wasn't because we were so strategic. We were just praying and trying to find a way to reach more people with the gospel. And our other church, which was God had blessed for years, right? What ended up just being too small.
Yeah.
And no way to expand it. And that's happened to us. Like this is our fifth major building project.
Yeah.
And this building is actually designed for a sixth. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But we're kind of a plug and play building where there's a lot of setup over here underground stuff where we can actually double our facilities that way.
Yeah, we have a big front lawn, but God willing, it won't always be a front lawn, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that was the plan. So, so we don't have to move again, hopefully.
That's what, well, I mean, that's what, one of the phenomenal things that, like, as I've learned the story over the years, especially in these last few months as we've been talking the anniversary, is that like God's provision through like the previous generations of our church and leadership to put us on a property in a place with as much space as we could foreseeably need. Right. Like we have room to grow and expand here. And I mean, even dream beyond our own building in ways, I mean, like churches across the country and around the world would dream of. Right. The number of pastors I talk to, like things come up. Oh, what's your building like? What's your congregation like? How much property do you have? And here we have 16 acres. Like, what? Like, we have guys have to have off-site parking, or like it's just like those issues aren't ours, and it's such a huge blessing that we have.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's circle back now. So we found Fairview Ave. Now it's time to go about raising the money and making that happen. Now I got a little something I wanted to show you guys that I know you've both seen before, but probably not for some time. Somebody dropped off this to me, the original brochure.
Oh, yeah.
For the Mill Creek Miracle campaign.
Yeah, this would be phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah.
Like the whole project. You remember this?
Yeah.
There's some good vintage photos of you and Nancy in there, Bill.
Yeah.
Not to mention of our current board chair, Keith and Sue Dodds. So, and you see some of what the original vision for the building was. Now, like how we know, like kind of like with like the original idea of the building and what we have now, like, it went through several iterations before we kind of landed on what we could actually build.
Yeah, partly I think it's a matter of what we could afford to build, and then to best utilize the space that we were going to build. And that's how we ended up with a multi-purpose
Yeah.
auditorium, was something that could be used every day.
Yeah, and which it is, and like
Yeah.
and a key piece of that consideration, of course, when we were building, was that we were building for the church as well as for the school, right? FCA was a major ministry of our church for many years, and in the design of this facility, that was one of the major considerations as well, was creating a space that worked really well for them.
Right. Right. It's also like the room designs and stuff that were in order to have children's ministry, like nursery, kindergarten, up through teenage years, right? Like separate kind of spaces and furniture that matched all that. Which, over the years, that morphs, as needs come and go, right? But yeah, that was the original. That was the original plan, and it's been extremely helpful. Yeah, but I think we need more room. That's the reason why we're going to 2 services, right?
You're not the only voice in that conversation. You talk to Lisa, our children's director. She will tell you very quickly that.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, if you're here on a Tuesday or Wednesday night and see the number of students buzzing around here, or on a Monday night, or on Thursday night, like the building is full all the time. So space is at an absolute premium.
Right.
Yeah. So then the initial fundraising efforts, those would have began like was it late '90s, early 2000s when those first.
Well, the first step was, this is a funny story. In the our church in the very first year, as our previous videos explain, built in their very first year, bought a property, built their first building on Churchill Crescent. And then later on, they built an annex. But in year number 2, they had to take out 2 mortgages to pay for this project. So that was 1952. And our records tell us that some families in the church actually mortgaged their houses in order to pay for the church. So that's the kind of dedication we have had. Just unbelievable sacrifice and generosity. But when I became pastor, there was a goal before I came called debt-free in 3, because they had built, after Churchill Crescent, they had built twice on Chestnut Street. And so they really wanted to be debt-free. So I came in, I don't remember what that meant, financially, but on the Sunday that I was able to say to the church, we are officially debt-free, the very next day, we bought this property, had a mortgage on it. And we've had loan certificates too, which have been a huge blessing to the church ever since the early 1950s, right?
Yeah.
So
you're saying
we're debt free for like 24 hours.
In the 75-year history of the church, we've been debt free for maybe that part of that first year, and then about another 24 hours.
Yeah. exactly right. So it would be great to be debt free.
Yeah. And so then, what was the early response? How did the fundraising efforts go, kind of out of the gate?
Well, the first thing was to pay for this property, right? So that was like, do you remember how much? Like $575,000, maybe something like that. You can imagine what it's worth today, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think the original. I think the original sale was around $30,000 an acre.
Yeah.
So doing the math of what today land prices are, but that was unserviced land, and we had to pay for that. So that was around that $450,000 to buy the land.
Because that was a lot back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, still a lot. But yeah.
This is 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then we
Still a lot.
then after we bought the land, then we needed to get it serviced, and servicing, I'm going to say, cost us maybe $10,000 to $15,000 an acre.
Yeah, the entire property, there was all these tests that had to be run before we could even do this. They had to do soil samples and not architectural, but archaeological studies, engineering studies. There were so many studies that had to be done just to see, is it possible to put a building of this size and weight on this property? And if so, what do you have to do? So there was a lot of building up the center part of this property in order to even build this building.
I've heard some of those stories, like talking to Bill Houghton. Bill Houghton was kind of the chairman of the building committee at that time. And he talked about this was a mud pit, and just trying to get it up to a grade where you're like, okay, now we can actually build out a foundation to build.
Right.
And I said that was a pretty massive effort.
Yeah, and there were no fire hydrants, there were no forced water mains, there's no sewage. All that had to be built in. So there was a sidewalk in our north parking lot that runs up to another sidewalk to the street, and that's where all of our water connects to the city.
Yeah.
So we didn't really want to build a building that, and the city didn't want us to do it, wouldn't approve it for us to use like septic and that sort of thing.
Right.
It was just too big. And so we had to do all that. And I don't remember exactly when we did all that, but it was part of the project.
The project of this, do you remember what the initial number was that you guys were trying to, like, after you paid off the property, so like around $500,000 for the property. Do you remember like what the initial number was for the building?
Well, the first quote on the whole project was really two numbers, two figures. It was what, maybe $12 million, $15 million or something. It was so big that we
Yeah.
realized, okay, we can't do the whole thing in one phase.
So
So
it's
this
kind
is
of,
phase one of two phases.
right.
Right.
Yeah, so kind of after the initial like kind of sticker shock of like the overall price is when we came up with kind of the two-phase approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how much the first number was, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
We were all sitting there like deer in the headlights.
I think more along the lines of 3.5 million,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was a huge number at that time.
Again, it still is.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I thought it was more than that, but I don't recall. So It's been a long time.
Yeah. Again, I was.
And God has provided, by the way,
Yeah.
through every obstacle, every difficult period in our country, and we're still here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of
Still having to make payments, but we're still here.
yeah. So there's a couple of interesting, like you talk about like some of the difficult events in like our country, on the world, in the world at large. I can take that from you, Al.
Sure.
Like one, like during the fundraising process, again, chatting with Bill Houghton, and he told me that like just as you guys were launching off a major like kind of aspect of the fundraising campaign was 9/11, like the following Sunday. And I mean, for those of us who are old enough to remember, like the world stood still, at least in North America, just like things ground to a halt, and like from just safety and fears concerns to like nobody knew what the economy was going to do in the wake of that. Like, do you guys have any recollection of like what that, like how that impacted things in the kind of days that followed?
I remember our elders coming to the conclusion that we got to postpone the project because there's so much uncertainty as to what's going to happen next. I mean, nobody even knew if we're going to be attacked. You know, bombers are going to be flying over, and the whole, like we're going to be in World War III. Nobody knew, and so there's a tremendous amount of fear, but mainly just a tremendous amount of uncertainty. So we slowed down the forward progress for a while. I don't remember how long, but a year anyway,
Yeah.
maybe even a little longer.
But I would say slowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, slowed down.
Not stop.
Not stop.
I mean, the vision was always there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But just circumstances, that's what had to happen.
Yeah. Well, then like, you talk about another one. So I remember I started here in spring of 2008, which was just on the cusp of the financial crisis, right? The mortgage meltdown, subprime crisis, all these things. And of course, within those next couple of years, St. Thomas, Elgin County lost what 2,000 or 3,000 jobs.
Right.
Factories closed. Yeah, it was dark days in this area for a while.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. We had many people who had to move away just to get a job.
Yeah.
And in a 2-year period, I think our offerings dropped about 25%, which was a lot to absorb. We had to cut back.
Yeah.
You know, like every one of our employees all took a cut in pay.
I remember that meeting. That wasn't fun.
And to the credit of our elders, like Al, they all agreed that they're going to raise their giving personally to at least as much as they're asking us to sacrifice. I mean, that's what this church is like, right? And W5 actually did a special on us as an example of what happens when a recession like 2008-9 hits a community.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff Smith, one of our elders, got interviewed because he like lost his job. And, you know, what's he going to do? And so, but you know what? It's a long time ago, and God continued to provide. Yes, sometimes you got to cut, sometimes you got to go forward, sometimes you got to go back, but you keep your eye on the goal, which is Jesus said to preach the gospel to every single person, right? Make disciples, see them baptized, train them up. And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
And there were other things that hit us, all kinds of things that made it difficult, financially.
Yeah. I think that's important for us to remember, right? Like it's not like this journey was smooth and easy to get here. Just like where you announce one Sunday, hey, let's go buy a property. And, the money shows up the next week, and you put a shovel in the ground the week after that. Like there was a lot of sacrifice, there were tears and pain and difficult decisions to make along the road. But and in the midst of that, like God was faithful, and it continues to be faithful. I mean, so much of our what's now our congregation has joined us really even in the last 5 or 10 years. They may not know this story, not know how we wound up here and what it took to get here, right? It's been, and even like as we've told the stories of kind of the previous iterations of faith, from moving from a home on Balaclava Street to a hall to buying property and putting up a tent and building a building and outgrowing that and building another building. This church over and over and over again throughout its history has had this culture of like faith-filled risk-taking, if I can call it that.
Yeah, and exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. Like we're willing to step out of the boat. And so as a result, many, many people have left our church to go into ministry, be missionaries, be youth pastors, be pastors. And because they're willing to say, I'm going to surrender my life to this. And there's been many, and I'm sure there's going to be many more.
Yeah, God willing.
Well, this project is called the Mill Creek Miracle, right? That's what this. I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see the football.
Screen, but talk to us about the football, Bill. What's the symbolism behind that?
Okay. When the church voted to buy the property and build, we had no idea that it was going to take 10 years. But I do remember telling the church, I said, it's kind of like, because from my background, like I love football, I said, it's kind of like carrying a football across the goal line. It's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. Some people may not make it. They may end up sitting on the bench, because they just wore out. Or they may have to get sold to some other team, right? But we let this football be a symbol of the faith of taking a project across the goal. And so we called it the Mill Creek Miracle.
Yeah.
So 10 years after voting, approximately, we moved in here. It was so much excitement. I mean, it was like being at a football game. It's like being at the Super Bowl or something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember very first time I walked out on the stage, I'm thinking to myself, it's huge. I said, it feels like being on an aircraft carrier, But I had the football. And I walked out and I laid it on the stage. And I did the, hands up to God,
yeah.
but it was also a touchdown.
Yeah.
And the crowd, our congregation just went crazy. But it is about us, right? And that we'll take the risk, faith. But in the end, it's God that gives you the strength to do it and to be willing to climb mountains and to go through the valleys. And there's a lot of both. Yeah. So that's what this is all about.
Fortunately, back in those days, touchdown dances weren't popular, so we didn't have to witness Bill doing a touchdown
Couldn't get
dance.
Bill doing the Iggy Shuffle or anything, eh?
But the football analogy was so appropriate in that, in football, a lot of bruises, getting beat up, battered. Occasionally there's a fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that, we didn't always do the right thing at the right time, and we had to recircle back. And, so the football analogy was a good analogy, and it was really just that constant going forward. And
I have from the very first service here, the official opening of Faith Church for Our Community, September 11th, 2005. So, just past 20 years ago.
Yep. It's amazing. Let's see. Al House, Elder, Leadership Council. Bill Coleman, Elder, Pastor, read Scripture. Bill Houghton, our Chairman,
Yeah.
Elder, Building Committee. testimony. Keith Dunmore is now with the Lord.
Yeah, I remember.
Faithful,
Keith. I knew
faithful
Keith.
guy. Volunteer coordinator. I remember Keith Dunmore is fighting cancer because he's one of our seniors, right? Even back then.
Yeah.
I came in here and he's up on a scaffolding fixing those holes in the wall, which are actually sound barriers
Yeah.
to keep the sound better, echoing. That's what it's been like. Here's guys fighting cancer and he's up on a scaffolding helping.
Yeah.
Well, he was our volunteer coordinator. And our mayor at that time, Jeff Coleman, came and spoke. And Peter Cusack, pastor of the Pentecostal Assembly.
Yeah. He was leading like the kind of the association of churches in that time, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our architect, Mark Hicks, and doesn't say anything about the football, but there's a big, long list of companies here who participated in some way in being a blessing and a help. And not just companies, but here's Teen Challenge, volunteering, helping out, It's amazing.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So then, the opening of this building 20 years ago, the beginning of our church 75 years ago. If you guys could share what's one hope, one dream you hold for the next 75 years of faith. What would you want to see? What would you hope that God would do?
Can we say debt free for one day?
Yeah. That would be good.
Get another 24 hours of debt free?
But
Probably after phase 2.
but then it'll be the next challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be.
And passing the torch on to that next generation to take on the next challenge and see what God has. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that the faith that founded our church, risky faith, but with a sweet spirit. Hopefully, not always, but we try to, right? Will stay. That we won't mission drift into non-biblical stuff. And, I was doing this, I'm I'm a senior now, 77. And so my wife and I are involved with seniors ministry. So I'm thinking about these things, mention this senior here up on scaffolding. That's very much what's happening in our church, right? The decisions that we're making today, like our elders, half of them are seniors. 30% of our pastoral staff are seniors. Our women's Bible study, 80% are led by seniors. We have a whole bunch of seniors, but what's unique about us, I think, is we also have a ton of kids and young families and teenagers and young adults and middle-aged adults who are involved. So we have this big, wide range, and that those of us who have the most age and maybe the most experience have a very serious part in what goes on around here. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's good. We've always been you may have used the phrase here, multi-generational, right?
Right.
It's not usually kids and their parents, grandparents, and sometimes the great-grandparents, all part of this church, right? Or having history in this place, right? And I mean, ministry to kids and youth has been a cornerstone of this place since its founding.
And I think that's the focus, the leadership and the seniors in the congregation always valued and placed a high value on kids ministry and youth ministry.
Yeah.
And it served us very well.
Yeah, and making sure that, because what happens when we all kind of do things our own way, right? But say keep our eyes on the next generation, because sooner or later, this is what I tell our seniors now. I said, look, here's what happens in life, in churches. The next generation always takes over the farm, and they're not going to use a horse. They're going to use a tractor with artificial intelligence and satellite.
Right.
So they're going to do it way different than we did it, right? And our job is to be their best cheerleaders, even if it's way different than maybe what we were experienced when we were their age.
For sure.
So as we hold to the truth, right? Hold to gospel-centered, Christ-centered, evangelistic, as we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the anchor that doesn't change, right? The core,
Exactly.
the core of what we believe and our theology that's been true to us since day one.
Exactly.
But the teaching doesn't change, but how we how we care with the ministries, how we reach people, that continues to evolve and change as we need to continue to just to bring the gospel to this growing community, right? We've got a mission that there's 45,000 people in St. Thomas, another 25, 30,000 in the county beyond that, and more coming all the time.
Right.
Right. And that's the mission, that's the goal, that's the vision, is for us to be a community of Jesus followers on mission with good news and to go reach every single one of them. God
Absolutely.
willing.
Yep.
Yep.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for sharing your stories, your insight, and here's to 75 years and hopefully at least another 75 yet to come.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been good.
It's been fun.